Tamron Hall Show has a brand new home here in Chicago. ABC 7, 1 p.m. is where you can go ahead and check her out. She also has a brand new book, As the Wicked Watch. I got my copy right here, my advanced copy. Yeah. Thank you so much for sending this.
Of course.
And we were used to work together during her time here in Chicago, and I've been part of the Tam fam for over 20 years. I mean, OG Tam fam right here.
OG Tam fam. We got to get t-shirts.
Exactly. We got to get t-shirts. But I do want to talk a little bit. You were just in Chicago. What was it like to show Moses the outside of the ABC building and seeing your video out there on the sign?
It was amazing. You know, it was a dream come true. We drove by Fox 32, which is where I first met you, and worked there for 10 years, and taking him to see the shed. I think for me, honestly, the Shed Aquarium was more a more special moment than watching Mama on a billboard because, you know, I love the Shed Aquarium. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And it's one of those places, Rudy, when I was trying to get pregnant, and you understand this long journey, you start to fantasize of the things you want to do with them, right? And I want to take you here, and we're going to ride bikes here, and we're going to do this. And on my list was the Shed Aquarium. And here the pandemic happened, and we weren't able to get there for nearly 2 years, like everyone else, kind of locked in place. And to be able to sit there and walk around on a Saturday morning and show him that was so incredibly emotional for me, not for him, because he was like, Mama, back up. But for me, it was just phenomenal. But I have to tell you, the hotel where we stayed, we had a great view of the Chicago River, and he went to the window and says, Mama, boat. You know, it was just great to have him react to the city that I love so much in the way that I still react to it when I pull into Chicago.
Well, you got to see a couple of work things, do things with the kids. You also got to have brunch with a couple of your friends. And because of you, I learned to love brunch. I know we used to go to places like the Bongo Room and Flo's. I mean, those were the places that we would hang out at.
Yeah, listen, in fact, that's funny you say that, because when I started this show, I would tell people, think of it like a brunch. I want Tamron Hall Show to be the brunch where you're 2 mimosas in, the people you really don't like are gone, and then you can just talk, right? You can talk about everything together. You've already eaten, and your barriers and the airs, all of that's gone, and you're just having a good conversation. So when I was pitching this show, that was the scenario that I would explain to executives. It's brunch, you're 2 mimosas in, and you're finally yourself. And that's when you get to the heart of somebody. That's when you learn their story, their journey.
Exactly, because you might have brunch, with 10 people, but only 4 are left, and then you're like, all right, this is why we came here.
Like,
let's start talking.
Good, they're gone. Right. Now we're going to really talk.
I do want to talk about the show in a little bit. I want to get to the book, but the first question, just since you mentioned that, over the past 18 months during the pandemic, a lot of the guests were at home that you were, talking to virtually. And I think people have a sense of openness, or they're more comfortable talking from home. Did you find a difference or a shift in your guests as far as how open they would be, especially talking to you from home, and how, not post-pandemic, but now they're coming back in the studio, a different sense of openness?
I feel that with our show, people expect me to be fair, and I think they recognize I'm interested in their journey. So I didn't feel a disconnect, right? I mean, there were times on Zooms, just people would start weeping. And just today, I interviewed Jimmy Allen, who's out with a new children's book, The Country Music Star. And he's also right now Dancing with the Stars, just welcomed a new baby. And I mentioned the death of his father in 2019. We're on Zoom. He burst into tears from his hotel room. And I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't know. And one of my producers said, they're Tamron tears. Whenever people get around you, they're comfortable enough to be themselves. And I've experienced it on Zooms. I've experienced it in person with Billy Porter and many other guests, Issa Rae, Gabrielle Union recently, just in tears. And I feel that no matter who you are, Rudy, whether you live your life in the public eye or don't, we want someone to root for us because we root for other people, and we want to feel a connection. So during those 18 months, we were all forced to feel it on Zoom. Moses had his first birthday on Zoom, right? And I had my birthday party socially distanced at a park. We had to adjust, and the show did that. But now the audience is back in. We kicked off this season with a live in-studio vaccinated audience, and that brought the energy back for me right? For me, it had a huge impact that I wasn't expecting, just to feel that camaraderie of the Tam fam. And I know our guests feel it.
So it is Wicked Wednesday. Here we go right here. I'm so proud of you. I am so excited. When I heard that the character was based in Chicago, I was like, please, Tamron, we have to talk about this. So thank you so much for doing this. Let's talk about the character of Jordan. How did you come up with her, and how much personal experience? Because I know of a few things where we could pull things from, but she's just such an incredible character that you just root for her so much.
Thank you. Listen, she's a combination of many, many characters. I think that you could find obviously me, but some of Robin Robinson, Diane Byrne, Cheryl Burke, many reporters and other anchors that I've worked with over the years. She's pieces of the journey. What is it like to be an anchor or a reporter in a city like Chicago, covering the types of stories that we cover? When I first moved to Chicago, one of the first stories I covered was Ryan Harris. And that was a part of the inspiration for this character, and allowing her to say things that I wasn't experienced or seasoned enough to say, right? Maybe I wasn't confident enough to say, and explore what justice looks like. And it was important for me for the book to be set in Chicago, because so much of my formative learning and formative years of reporting were right there. I mean, people remember me as Tamron Hall, the anchor, but I was the Tamron Hall, the reporter, just like everybody else in the cold, reporting on Michigan Avenue and the snowstorm, or Tamron Hall who covered the Bourbonnais Amtrak train derailment in the middle of the night, just like any other reporter. But it's also what happens behind the scenes in the newsrooms of these big organizations, whether in Chicago, New York, or LA, and how that affects a reporter and also affects the viewers at home.
One of the early stories, especially when we first started working together, was Diamond and Tiana Bradley, who they just celebrated the 20-year anniversary. I don't think that's the right word, but the family are still looking for answers. And that story haunted me in 2001. It still haunts me to this day. And it just gave me so many chills, especially when we think of women of color and kids of color and those communities that don't get the same response as far as when people go missing or things happen.
Rudy, it's incredible. I wrote this book a year and a half ago. Never could I have imagined that right now we would be having this conversation again about who gets to be the lead. Who does the media care about when they're missing, when they are murdered? And it gave me such, I don't know, I think I had a bout of anxiety about it, very bad night not long ago, watching these debates over it, knowing that my book touches on that, and also knowing, like you, we've witnessed it firsthand. And people keep asking, well, why does it happen? Well, is it because the newscast is only 30 minutes? Or, well, in this case, a lot of her life was on social media, so it was easy for them to tell her story because it was, all chronicled on social media before. Yeah, there are many, many reasons that people give, but I think at the heart of it, we recognize that, like any industry, the news media has its flaws, and there's clearly whether it was passed down. I don't think anyone in this day and age, anyway, goes into a newsroom and says, "We only want to lead with the white woman." I think that it's a bias or some kind of belief that keeps getting passed down of what do viewers want to see, and that becomes problematic. And we see it in real life. And I wrote about it based on real life experience in this book.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, this says it's the first Jordan Manning novel. So we're not looking at, this is the only story. I mean, I read the whole thing. I don't want to give out any secrets because I want people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But there's other books to come.
Yeah. So I grew up reading Nancy Drew, and I had the box set. And so when I started writing this book, originally, someone said, "Is it just going to be a one-off?" And I said, "No, I have other stories." So I've already started book number 2. We're 4 chapters in. I can tell you Jordan still lives in Chicago, but something pulls her still in the Midwest. You'll have to see. But it is quite a journey. It's also great to give color and texture to Chicago and step past the whole Windy City mantra and give the people and the voices a rhythm and a beat that they have and that I experience while living there.
Now, everything you're doing with the show, everything with the book, you just mentioned, a couple of names as far as like Cheryl Burton, Diane Burns,
Yeah.
yourself, Oprah, we'll get to her in a little bit, but, these are the people that a generation looked up to. And now you have your book, you have your show. Have you gotten teenagers or, young girls reaching out to you on social media or asking for tickets for the show on how you inspire them?
Oh my gosh, I'm fortunate and grateful that every day it seems that I'm hearing from a young journalist or a young woman who says, I'm so inspired. But to be honest with you, Rudy, at having Moses at 48, I hear from women my age saying, you inspire me, your leap of faith or you not letting a setback define you. Inspire. So it is phenomenal, but I have to give the truth though. When I go to Chicago, I always get people, I remember when I was a baby and watched you on Fox 32. I'm like, really? It's been that long? And I think about it. I started there in 1997. So they were babies when they were watching me. So it's surreal. It's surreal.
They're not, the 90s was 10 years ago. It wasn't longer than that. Like this is too much. I can't handle that. One of the craziest things is, right before the shutdown, you were on Stephen Colbert's show sharing your story of Oprah. And I remember watching the interview and as I was watching it, I was like, why do I know the story? And I was like, I was there when you went to the party. Like,
I kept thinking, how did I get that? So the party was Oprah Winfrey's launch for O Magazine. And I randomly got the invitation. I just started co-hosting the show with Bob Surratt at the time. And I thought, did they send this to me by mistake? Like, that's crazy. How did I get an invitation to Oprah's party? And we all trucked down to the West Loop. And remember that spread? Huge spread, shrimp, crab legs. It was crazy. And yes, that is my real Oprah story. I got my first picture with her just as I bit into a colossal shrimp bigger than Lake Michigan. I was like, of course Oprah can afford gargantuan shrimp.
Big shrimp. But I mean, that was also the time, when she was almost like Willy Wonka in the West Loop, is that you saw people coming in and out, but you didn't really see her, but you knew magic was happening there. So to be able to be in her presence in the company, I mean, that was such a cool moment. I remember being in the meeting that, the show would finish, we'd all get together and sit at that big table and go over the show. And this was like, nope, we've been waiting all morning. Tell us how the party was.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And even now, she is one of those people that when you're in her presence, and I've been fortunate to be with her many times, it just never gets old. It is awe-inspiring. I remember, like everyone else, going out on Randolph and taking a picture in front of the sign on days you couldn't get tickets, and then going across the street to Wishbone and having breakfast, hoping that you could get a glimpse of her. And then fast forward to now, my show re-airs on the OWN network. She was a guest on the show last season, and I got a chance to hang out with her on her tour. She is, of course, still awe-inspiring, and much of my appreciation for what she does clearly was watching right there when we were doing a morning show, a much smaller one, but still right there with her, in the same city at the same time.
So you've had Oprah, Billy Porter, I mean, countless celebrities on your show through all your incarnations, whether it was, in Chicago or your time in New York. Yeah. One of the ones I remember was in Chicago when David Beckham was coming to Chicago, and we were trying so hard to get him on and he didn't. Have you ever met him? Is he still a dream, like your dream guest to get on the show?
No, Rudy, he remains my elusive chanteuse. Thanks, Rudy. Thanks for bringing it up, man. One day.
One day, no, because I remember, you always work really hard and you're always happy when you get the great guests. And that was the one that, but now he's spending time in Miami, so you never know.
Although he did eat at my favorite pizza place here in New York. So I'm one step closer, Rudy, one step closer.
Well, one step closer. I'm going to be rooting when it actually does happen. So good to see you. Thank you so much for doing this. This means the world to me.
Of course. And congratulations on everything. I love seeing this next chapter, and I love seeing this side of you.
Oh my goodness. I love you. Thank you for everything. Tamron Hall Show, 1 p.m. ABC. Go ahead and check it out. Chicagoland. And As the Wicked Watch, October 26th, you can pre-order the book. Check out her social media for virtual events. And then there's a ton of independent bookstores, including 57th Street Books here in Chicagoland,
Yay.
that people can go ahead and pre-order those books and help out local booksellers here in our area.
Mwah. Thank you.
See you soon.